was able to kill himself within an hour. He got a gun in 20 minutes from a Pennsylvania store.
Then I heard pop, 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 and I recognized that as gunfire.
There I saw my husband on the ground.
You have a right not to get shot in your neighborhoods. You have a right not to get shot in your schools.
Youth are impacting adults because we're showing ourselves in a new light. We can do this. We can be the change we need for this world.
No one's safe until everyone's safe.
I think that the reality of gun violence today demands that we are not complacent. For many of us, we begin to sort of feel like, woe is me. What can I possibly do to change this? How can my voice really matter? I'm just one individual. How is that going to make a difference? But we know that our voices do make a difference. Judaism teaches us that each and every one of us makes a difference, that each and every one of us counts.
As a society, we do not have to tolerate gun violence in the proportions that we see it today. We don't have to tolerate one single school shooting. We don't have to tolerate targets against Jewish institutions or other faith-based institutions. It is a conscious choice we're making not to do more. It is a conscious choice we're making not to pass particular laws, not to help change the culture, not to help change our politics.
America has a gun violence problem. None of us are immune. It includes crime and homicide that our cities face every day. It includes suicide. It includes domestic violence. It includes accidental shootings. Of course, it includes the mass shootings that we hear about in the news. But really, it's about our guns and how easy it is to get them.
Adam was my husband. We have 3 girls, all teenage girls, and he had lost his job. Unbeknownst to me and unbeknownst to his friends, he was 57. I said goodbye to him that morning, thinking he was going to work, and he went to a gun store. He texted my girls and said, "I love you and I'm proud of you." My husband hadn't come home, and I called my friend. It was about 10 o'clock at night. Got into the car. We took Find My Phone, and we essentially followed it all the way out to King of Prussia Mall. We discovered the car running, and we're very nervous to approach it. And I opened the front door, and there was nobody in the car. It was a minivan. And my friend opened the back, and I couldn't really see because she was standing in front of where the door was. And she closed it real fast and said, don't look. And I sat in the car just in total disbelief and found out that my husband had killed himself, which was a complete shock to me. And then I had to go tell my girls. That is the hardest part as a parent. If there was a waiting period, if he had to wait 1, 2, 3 days, I wonder if he had come home, seen the girls, been discovered, if he would have done anything. I'm sure he wouldn't have. They say that 2/3 of all gun deaths are due to suicide. People who don't finish the task, don't complete it, say they would have changed their mind later. Having a background check, he would have passed it. That's not the problem. The problem is the impulsivity of the action. He was able to decide at that moment that he couldn't go on. So, within an hour from purchasing the gun, he killed himself and irrevocably changed our lives. If people knew how easy it was to do this action, to actually go out and purchase a gun, I think more people would get involved.
At the Anti-Defamation League, we do a lot of work on researching extremists, exposing extremists. And what we found through the years is that, without any doubt, the weapon of choice for those that seek to go into neighborhoods, into synagogues, churches, mosques, and other places to do mass killings is a gun.
4 years ago, when I was living with my family in Overland Park, Kansas, was the fateful Sunday of the Jewish Community Center shooting. A former Ku Klux Klan member who had been on the FBI's radar for a long time drove all the way through Missouri, across state lines, and targeted us. It was really paralyzing, that feeling, and knowing that it could have been us, it could have been anyone, but more than anything, it was someone. It was someone's child, it was someone's father, it was someone's mother, it was someone's wife, and they're gone. And nothing could bring them back. From then on, for the rest of the time that I lived in Kansas, our Jewish community campus had armed guards all the time. And we had to have really difficult conversations with our kids about what to do and explaining to them that there aren't always happy endings and that pain is real and that there really are bad people that want to kill and want to murder and want to inflict pain. And seeing that, experiencing that, living through that really brought my interest in the gun law debate to a whole new level.
Jews have always found places to worship, whether that's a synagogue or a temple or a shtibel in a small community. Anywhere that you have 10 Jews, you can have a prayer service. And so those places should be holy places, places that are safe. I, for one, don't want metal detectors at my synagogue. I don't want to see armed guards. I don't want people in the congregation feeling that their duty is to protect other people. And I think people of all faiths feel that way. That should be a safe space, a place of peace and holiness. And I think that in America, that's changing in churches and synagogues and mosques and all places of worship. And we're meant to not feel safe anymore. And we need to take that back.
When it happens over there, it's their problem. And then when it happens in your inner space, in your Dalet Amot, in your neighborhood, in your building, in your children's school, in the place where your son had a bris, where your kids play soccer every week, suddenly it's not their problem, it's our problem. And it really opens up your eyes to realize that no one's safe until everyone's safe.
The Parkland shooting really hit home for me because everybody always says, oh, it was supposed to be such a safe school district, and that's how I feel about my school district. And the fact that they were my age and the fact that, you know, they were in this type of school district that's kind of like mine, it takes away that, oh, it can't be me factor.
So we were visiting Barb's sister Ellen and her husband Bernie, and we got down there on a Wednesday night, the 22nd. Wednesday night was great. Thursday was great. Thursday evening was great. We had dinner, and then it didn't turn out so well after that.
They lived almost in the heart of Coconut Grove, so we took a stroll, and to set the scene, there were scores of people and jazz and very lively atmosphere.
And then I heard pop, pop, pop.
And I said to my sister immediately, those were gunshots. And she said it couldn't be. Within 10 seconds, they were ushering us into stores and restaurants, and people were hiding under tables, and we were sure it was a terrorist attack.
So I was standing there, and I realized I'd been struck by the bullet. And I turned to Bernie and I said, I'm hit. And he said, no, you're not. And I pulled up my purple shirt, and there was this huge hole over here.
Realized I was separated from my husband because we were half a block away window shopping. So we kept calling his phone, and my brother-in-law answered his phone, and he said, just come quickly. They told us where they were. It was right, a straight line in front of a church. We ran there, and there I saw my husband on the ground. And he yelled out, I'm gonna be okay, you'll see, I know it. And I'm down on the ground because I didn't want to incur a head injury. There we waited for the ambulance in front of this church.
The attendant in the back who put the IV said to me, we're gonna go to the Rider Trauma Center, which is where you should be because you're a gunshot victim.
It is so random, it happened to us. And in this area, that is a beautiful area, the last thing we would have ever thought that we would experience.
We built a learning center. It took us 5 years. We went all over. We wanted the best there. I was racing down again for a meeting at the learning center, and I see 4 little girls. I don't think they could have been much more than 8 at the time, 8 years old, but they were walking, clutching one another, that it looked like a circle. I didn't know what was going on, and I thought, uh-oh, one of them's sick. And when I went up to him, I said, honey, what is it? Do you have a stomach ache? Oh, no, Mrs. H. If we walk like this, when the bullets come, they won't get us. Not if, when. You know, I began to think, how can I begin a movement? And I decided okay, I'm going to do Moms Against Illegal Guns. And I felt that women would come out down Broad Street and scream their heads off until they were heard. Well, they didn't. Some did, but not enough. Few did, but not enough.
What I want Jewish women and Jewish girls to know is that our voices do matter. Our stories matter, our words matter. When we stand up for ourselves and our communities and the broader community, it makes a difference. When we are absent, other people who need us don't get the strength and the participation, the partnership they can be so valuable to them. And when we're absent or quiet and let others speak for us, our stories don't get told, our voices don't get heard, and the work doesn't get done the way we need it to be.
The way you choose to lift up your voice in your community when and where makes a real difference. You know, Scripture teaches us that no one is required to complete the task, but neither are we free to refrain from it.
We're obligated to help finish the world and to create and to build. And I think included in that sacred obligation is a charge to action, that we have to take responsibility for the world around us.
Torah teaches us that when the people of Israel left Egypt, they were heading towards the sea and they heard the Egyptians chasing them, and they became incredibly scared and nervous because they were being chased down. And in front of them, they saw the sea and they had no idea how they would cross it. And in back of them, they just heard these horses and these people chasing them. And they were petrified. And it was at that moment that Moses and the children of Israel cried out to God and prayed. The Midrash says that God's response was, "What are you doing praying to me? This is not the time for prayer. This is the time for action. This is the time to move forward." What the Midrash teaches us is that this isn't the time for us to pray and to contemplate a world that could be different. It's a time rather to dream, to really dream of a world that is filled with possibility and a world that is filled with hope.
It's important that people in every generation speak out for what they believe in. When I was young, we spoke out against the war in Vietnam. We spoke out for civil rights here in the United States. We spoke out for Soviet Jews. We spoke out for our brothers and sisters in Israel. In recent decades, there's been a lot of silence. And to see these young people from Parkland inspire teens throughout the United States to come out and speak for themselves and urge our elected officials to do what they should have done long ago, which is to prevent gun violence by limiting access to assault weapons, by controlling the number of guns that can be acquired by someone, the requirements for obtaining a gun. These are important legislative and regulatory initiatives not inconsistent with the Second Amendment.
The aftermath of Parkland, how the youth were taking the stand this time. It wasn't the adults discussing what would happen to the youth. It was the youth saying, this is what needs to happen for us. At March for Our Lives in Washington, you could really feel the energy of all the thousands and thousands of people that were there. Even though there were other important marches going on in all different places in the country, the March on Washington really hit home, and you could feel the hope and the want and the need for change from everybody, and it was really powerful to feel all that. It was really empowering to be part of the school walkout, just to see so many people taking a stand for something we all believe in. One person can make a change, but when so many people come together, it just becomes a movement, which is so much more powerful than one person.
It's important for everyone who sees this video to realize that they can make a difference. The Parkland students showed us that. It doesn't take much. And so if each of us put a little bit of ourselves, of our hearts and our minds and our money, into working on this crisis, into helping, whether it's writing an op-ed, whether it's standing with a sign, whether it's reaching out to a legislator, we can make a difference. And I hope everyone will try to do their part.
I hope that this film will encourage the women who are watching it and the girls who are watching it to similarly find their voice and speak out for an issue that is important to so many of us.
I would say to them what John Lewis said to me when I was on that first march back in '65. Trust yourself. Hear your heart. Know what's right, and don't stop fighting.